So I'm gonna start with you. Down in Miami, or when you're in Denver or Buffalo, you've been all over the place. Can you share with the group, either something that you feel can add to what we just talked about there in that half an hour or so?
Well, I mean, you hit about just about everything that we all talk about all the time. The one thing, just kind of on the last point you were on, that I emphasize, because I teach the same thing. I teach locking the wrist with the ball security in traffic. And one of the things I talk about, and you saw it on that last picture that you showed, when the ball got punched out, was that I talk about anytime that you're deviated or you're getting ready to make somebody miss, you're decelerating, you're not at full speed, that's the trigger to grab the wrist. So if you're in the open and you're running, you're fine. We're not saying they got to be stiff and keep the ball here, because the reality is they got to have some arm swing to run the ball. But there's times when you get in the open and all of a sudden here the safety comes that you're getting ready to make miss. Well, you're focused on the safety. You don't see the pursuit behind you. But if anything takes you off of your gait, if anything makes you slow down, is crossing your path, that's the time, hey, let's get that wrist locked in there, secure that ball, take the gain at that point in time. Now, if you make that safety miss, then now you can drop your hand and keep going and continue the action. But I teach the same thing, but I think one of the things that is hardest for guys to get a grasp of is they got it in that one hand and they're thinking about making that move and they have no idea what's happening behind them, nor do we want them focused on that. We want them playing with pace going forward. But I just there's a big point of emphasis with my guys is anytime you're unsure, lock that wrist in, take the gain, we'll get up. If you make him miss, then, now you go ahead and run in the open field.
Any other ball security comments guys want to make? Or
yeah, I'll make one. I always tell my guys to keep your palm facing your sternum. That keeps the ball inside your forearm. When your palm faces the sky, then the ball is exposed. So that's the term I use.
Yeah. Coach, we always talked about the hand you don't see is the one that's gonna always force the fumble, man. It's that, that club one there. It's always the guy from behind, always the guy getting blocked, the guy just getting his butt kicked. The hand you don't see. So you got to be focused on it every time.
Yep. And hopefully we're ingraining it so much with all the different individual drills that we do. Everybody on this call will have versions of, agility drills, let's call them, but you're also coaching ball security, and you're hoping the while that they're doing those drills, this is just a locked habit, of carrying the football high and tight, locked away. Hey, Andre, you'll appreciate this, Coach Powell, because you know how the fields are at Pitt, not being 100 yards based on the railroad tracks in the river.
Right.
So what I would do with LeSean McCoy when he would fumble the ball in practice is I would take him to the side of where the railroad tracks are. We would start in that end zone. I'd put 2 balls in his hands, and we would walk 5 yards, and every 5 yards he had to get down on both knees, take the balls, touch him to the ground, and then get back up. And we would go
like
up
that.
and down the field. And that was his kind of punishment, so to speak, every time he fumbled in practice or the ball got loose.
Well, I tell you, the one thing that you talked about that I like, that I talk about to the guys all the time is explaining what the defense is trying to do and how they're trying to tackle and how they're trying to pursue, because I think it brings to light, like when you start going through your drills and I think that your players start to understand why you're doing the drills, because you're explaining, hey, here's how because the defense is doing this, here's how you're going to combat what they're doing. And, one of the things that I did this mainly in college, because in the pros, we don't do as many pursuit drills. But like I would even make cut-ups. I would go to the defensive practice tape. So anytime they started off practice doing a pursuit drill, like I would cut that up. Like our linebacker coach, when he was teaching tackling, if he made a tape up and teaching tackling, what I would do is I would get that tape and I would actually show my players. I even, when I was with the Rams, I know some of you guys know Frank Bush. I even had, Frank Bush come in and explain, how they try to tackle, how they try to rip the ball out. One of the things that we did here with Coach McCarthy that we thought was pretty good is we had this session that we used to call Cross the Hallway. And what that meant was, like, we would have a meeting set aside where we would meet with the linebackers and a linebacker coach. So the linebacker coaches and the players would actually explain how they try to tackle, what they would try to do anytime in pass pro, how they tried to beat the back. The backs would actually explain, how they would try to set up. And then I would also talk about how we're trying to set up as well as the linebacker coach. But what happened is, and all the players got a lot out of that, but what started to happen is when you start to go through your drill work and you start explaining your drill work, now they saw the validity in what you were doing because they understood this should help them against the defense. So that's why I really like when you start breaking that part of it down and talking about making sure guys understand what the defense is trying to do. I think that's a big point because it's a great selling point for your own guys.